Welcome to Miles Ahead, the Canadian Points Podcast, brought to you by FrugalFlyer.ca, where we talk about all things miles and points, a hobby that allows us to travel all over the world in style and on a budget. As a reminder, I'm Danny.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Josh.
Today, we're covering what feels like the most significant elevation of Canadian points and miles since the relaunch of Aeroplan in 2020. If you're a regular listener, you heard me say that this is the points and miles news of the year, and we are 5 days into the year as we are recording this episode. I hope that I can look back on this and say that it was the points and miles news of the year. Flying Blue is now transferring from American Express membership rewards at a 1-to-1 ratio, up from a 1 to 0.75 ratio. This is a 33% increase as from our previous transfer ratio, making them arguably the most attractive loyalty program to use when crossing the Atlantic, or if you want to visit the French Polynesia, as Josh did in his review of Flying Blue Air France A350 on his way to Tahiti. Well, this is a program that Canadians should have paid attention to before. Now it has become even more important, and we are going to give you all of the details. Before we delve too far into this Air France Flying Blue KLM deep dive, I want to remind listeners that you can always find our timestamps in the show notes if you'd like to skip to a specific section or revisit any particular part. Additionally, if you're enjoying what you hear, please take a moment to leave us a review and a rating on your favorite podcast platform. We read all of the feedback, and the reviews in particular help us tremendously. So, as mentioned a few times, this is going to be the episode with everything you need to know about Flying Blue and probably the most attractive way to cross the Atlantic. We're going to start with what Flying Blue is, and I've been on a monologue for what feels like an hour, so I'm going to have Jeff chime in and tell us, what is Flying Blue Air France KLM, or what shall heretofore be referred to as simply Flying Blue?
Yeah, so Flying Blue very obviously is the loyalty program for Air France and KLM. For those that don't know, Air France and KLM are owned essentially by the same company. They are the same entity, so they have a unified program under those two airlines. They're both SkyTeam airlines. So what I'm trying to say is that Flying Blue gives us access to SkyTeam award redemptions, which is something that I did mention last time in last episode, is that finally we now have SkyTeam, Star Alliance, and Oneworld all on equal footing at American Express, which is why we're so excited about it. So while we do love Flying Blue, one of the things that we don't love about it is the high surcharges. And you can usually expect on a business class redemption around $300 to $350 Canadian in taxes and fees per person on a business class redemption. So not ideal, but you put up with it because you're still getting great value. And I think that's it. Did I miss anything?
Well, the one thing that we should mention is if you're going to be paying $300 to $350 in taxes and fees, you want to make sure you're paying with the right card. Obviously, insurances on Aeroplan awards are covered if you pay with an Aeroplan co-branded credit card. Here, it's a similar situation. People sometimes do forget that we have an Air France KLM Flying Blue Mastercard issued by Brim in Canada. It often doesn't have a welcome bonus, and here we are all about welcome bonuses, so we kind of forget that it's not around. But when it does have a welcome bonus, it's pretty valuable, usually. You either get Progress Toward status, or you get in the range of 30,000 to 60,000 miles, so some decent value there. But if you pay for your $300 to $350 per person, taxes and fees, one way. So let's just recap here quickly. If you're doing two people round trip with Flying Blue, you're going to pay like $1,200 in taxes and fees, if not more than that, for your business class redemption. So not cheap. If you are going to pay for that with your Air France KLM, Brim, Flying Blue, Mastercard, you are going to have insurance coverages for trip interruption, trip cancellation, and a few other things. Look at the review of that card, which I'm not going to name by name again, in the show notes if you want more details about what that actually covers. But Josh, if you're just concerned about earning rate, you could also go south of the border and pay with a very well-known card issued by American Express US.
Yeah, so if you're located south of the border, the American Express Platinum card does earn 5 times on travel purchases, which makes it excellent, and also comes with a bevy of travel insurance coverage, so worth considering.
Yeah, no, really good option for charges directly with airlines. The American Express Personal, Platinum card, or any of the Charles Schwab or Morgan Stanley variants all earn that 5x membership rewards. So if you're going to spend basically $1,000, you can at least get 5,000 American Express membership rewards points back. So that's a nice way to do things. But speaking of earning points, how can we earn Flying Blue miles in Canada? The biggest news, of course, is that you can now transfer from Amex Canada at a 1-to-1 ratio. This is the reason that we're doing this show today. So that is a super exciting development. But that's not the only way that you can earn Flying Blue miles in Canada. Jeff, what are some other ways that we can earn Flying Blue points here in the land of maple syrup and hockey?
So I guess the obvious way is flying on Air France KLM and crediting that flight to Flying Blue. You're not going to earn a lot of points on these types of things. It's not our preferred way of racking up points, but you earn points here and there if you just take the occasional cash fare flight on Air France or KLM. And then you also have the card that you just mentioned, or the card that you mentioned earlier, the Brim Air France KLM Flying Blue co-branded card. When the card has a welcome bonus, which isn't very often, it seems, it's a pretty decent card for, like, as you said, getting 30,000 to 60,000 Flying Blue miles for the $132 annual fee. So when it has a welcome bonus, I think the card is worth getting. It is absolutely not worth getting if it does not come with a decent welcome bonus. I have the card. It's a good for a backup when you're at a place that doesn't take Amex. So I kind of use it in those situations. It's not the most useful card. It doesn't come with a ton of benefits when you're flying on Air France or KLM. So, yeah. Like I said, when it has a welcome bonus, go for it, but otherwise, don't bother.
All right. So other than the Flying Blue co-branded credit card, we can also transfer from U.S. banks, or one of my favorites, in Rove miles. And Josh, which U.S. banks can you transfer points if you've got into the U.S. market?
So this was the preferred method before Canada went 1-to-1 on transfer. So you can transfer American Express membership rewards in the U.S., Chase Ultimate rewards, Citi Thank You rewards, and Capital One miles. In addition to Rove miles, which Danny mentioned. And if you want to know more about Rove miles, we'll link our shopping portal episode in the show notes for a deeper dive into that. There's some great value there. The other thing I love about all these US programs is we tend to see at least a couple times a year they do transfer bonuses. Typically we see anywhere from 20 to 30%, which, as we get into later this episode and some of the redemption opportunities that are available, that offers crazy value in transferring these points. So while I think, the Canada MR changes are phenomenal, US will still be a huge source of these points for many people for years to come.
Yes, definitely. And while it's a niche bank, Wells Fargo does also have transfers for their points into Flying Blue. So I think we mentioned this in our previous episode, but worth mentioning here again. Air France and KLM and their conglomerate Flying Blue loyalty program are being quite aggressive in their expansion efforts. So they are a transfer partner, pretty much every major bank, and we see that even with Rove Miles, a relatively new player in the transferable point space. They've joined there as well. Now, we do have a few less exciting ways to earn Flying Blue miles, but you could use the Air France Shop for Miles online portal. You're almost probably in every situation better off using Rove or even like Rakuten if you have a U.S. American Express card and you want to earn Rakuten miles. And speaking of transfer partners, we forgot to mention Bilt Well, built as a relatively obscure partner for Canadians, you can transfer your Bilt points to Air France KLM as well. So you have the Air France Shop for Miles, kind of similar to the Aeroplan shopping portal for Canadians if you're looking for something similar. You could also go with the Flying Blue Experiences, which is just like a Viator or a Get Your Guide alternative. However, you can click through a shopping portal to Viator and probably earn a lot more miles than what you would earn through the Flying Blue Experiences. But for completeness, you can choose to earn Flying Blue miles directly through there. You could also do Flying Blue Hotels for miles. This is basically the same thing as a shopping portal, but you're booking your hotels through this website. There are some reasonable miles earnings to be found. So if you really like Flying Blue miles and you can't earn enough of them for some reason, which shouldn't make a whole lot of sense after you can now transfer your Amex Canada points to 1-to-1 ratio. But if you really want to book your hotel for some extra Flying Blue miles, you can do that. They are also a Booking.com Flying Blue portal. So you can book anything on Booking.com and earn Flying Blue miles by clicking through their portal. But again, Rackets in US is probably better. And then the last thing that I have to mention before we move on to purchasing miles is going to be car rentals. The earnings seem kind of meh in terms of what you actually get back. There are occasionally promotions that can make this an elevated earn rate, but I love my Avis President's Club status that I get from Aeroplan. So all of my rentals get credited to Aeroplan because that's the deal to maintain your Avis President's Club, which is an invite-only status. So I love getting huge upgrades pretty much every time I rent with Avis, to the point where I'll even pay a little bit more versus competitors just to have that white glove service, so to speak. Because at least I find, my experience is that they do take that President's Club status pretty seriously. But Josh, purchasing miles. Is this a good deal? How often can we do it? What are the details here?
We talk about purchasing miles so often, and sometimes it really makes a ton of sense and other times not as much. So with Flying Blue, they do run 100% bonus promotional offers from time to time, similar to what we see with like Hilton and other programs. So when those are ran, you can buy 200,000 Flying Blue miles at a rate of 1.525 USD cents per point. So it's about 4,100 Canadian. A lot of money out of pocket. 1.525 USD is maybe on the threshold of could be worth if you have a redemption in mind, but probably not. Purchasing Flying Blue miles is through points.com, similar to many other services. So buying points does not code as travel or airfare or anything like that. So don't expect to receive a good multiplier on that. If you're purchasing points, it can always be worth it to use a card that you're working on the spend on. There's also the opportunity to use a US card many of the times buying points, as it can avoid some of the taxes that you would be on top of that as a Canadian. So that should usually be your go-to. And that applies to not just Flying Blue, but many of the times you'll be buying points. You should always reach for a US card if possible. So it doesn't strike me as amazing value, I'll be honest, especially with that value being in USD. But I do know they have a subscribe to miles feature that is a hell of a lot more interesting.
Yes, Jeff, please give us the details on subscribe to miles and why I'm actually considering it.
Yeah, so just like you said, you can do a monthly subscription for miles because everything's a subscription nowadays, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Even our points and miles. So they have a few different monthly packages, I guess you could call them. You can purchase 2,000 miles every month for a recurring $34.20. That's Canadian and including taxes. You can purchase 5,000 miles for $79, 10,000 miles for $146, 17,000 miles for $227.80 a month. Just like what Josh mentioned with the purchasing of miles, if you use a U.S. credit card, you can avoid paying the GST on these miles. And just like purchasing miles directly, these are also processed by points.com. So just use whatever card you're working on minimum spend for. And there's like a cooling off period. So you have to subscribe for a minimum of 3 months. And then once you cancel, like I said, I believe there's a cooling off period before you can resubscribe to the service. So if we're looking at the math here for the maximum 17,000 miles for $227, you're looking at 1.34 cents per point if you pay with your US credit card, which is a lot better. And I mean, if you were going to purchase miles, this would probably be the route to go. But I'm quite hesitant to go into these types of things because, you know, 227 a month is quite a bit. But at the same time, 227 a month may be a lot more palatable for people rather than shelling out, say, $4,000 in one batch. So if you were going to purchase miles, it's definitely worth considering.
Danny, tell us, what are your thoughts? Because I know you're chomping at the bit with this one.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the whole picture here, I probably won't end up subscribing to purchasing miles. However, I think this is far and away the cheapest cents per point in terms of what you can get for how much money you're going to shell out just straight up. If you're looking at the maximum value where the deal is the best, so spending $227 a month, if you are able to redeem for a 45,000 point promo reward redemption, and if you're listening to that and you say, I don't know what a promo reward is, don't worry, we got you. That's next on the docket. Basically, you can fly business class for 45,000 points. You would only have to pay $679 Canadian, not USD, plus the taxes and fees to fly in business class. So if there was a Google Flights alert that came out and said, hey, pay $900 for a one-way flight to Europe in lie flat business, that would be a screaming deal. And it's right here. It's sitting there. So if you're in a situation where maybe you can't apply for credit cards or you are being rejected by Amex for some reason and you can't get your hand on Flying Blue points, this is an excellent way to unlock the program and get excellent value from it. So subscribing to miles, significantly better than purchasing miles. Few nuances, as Jeff mentioned, but I think a really awesome opportunity and something that we wouldn't have otherwise uncovered if we didn't decide to do this deep dive on Flying Blue. Now, speaking of the best redemptions, promo rewards. These are amazing, for lack of a better term. You can spend 18,750 points in economy class to cross the Atlantic from select North American cities every month. You usually need to travel within 6 months, but there's lots of cities. Like we had talked about this in the previous episode. I think there was like 5 or maybe even 6 cities in North America, and often are Canadian cities. I was able to book my parents a promo reward in business class. Actually, it sometimes shows up in premium cabins for 45,000 points from Amsterdam back to Toronto. So a amazing deal and better than anything that you're going to find on Aeroplan. The 60K rate is great, but 45K is a lot better. Premium economy at 30K. You're not going to find 30K points for Aeroplan redemptions. Less taxes and fees on premium economy as well. So an excellent way, especially going westbound when it's kind of a pseudo daytime flight. Lie flats are nice, but I would be perfectly okay with premium economy if it was 30,000 points and it perfectly fit my travel schedule. So promo rewards are arguably one of the better redemptions, but we also have some child rewards. Now, there are no parents on this show, so we won't be taking advantage of this. But Jeff, please tell us what the deal is with child rewards, and the fact that it stacks with promo rewards is even better.
Yes. So I don't think any of us know, or at least I don't know of any other programs that give a discount for a child redemption, but Flying Blue does. It's all children ages 2 to 11 get a 25% discount on all redemptions, which is really neat, I think.
Yeah, sizable.
Yeah, for sure. But and like you said, it stacks with promo rewards, so you're looking at some pretty good savings for if you're bringing your child into on a trip for you. And this applies to all cabins, so business class, premium economy. So you can get some pretty decent savings this way.
Yeah. I did want to mention, we see a lot of the promo rewards are for US cities. So just be aware of that. That's definitely the focus. You can always position down to the States. But Canadian cities do pop up on there from time to time. I've definitely seen Montreal on there. So knowing that they refresh these, it's every month, I believe.
Yep. Every
You should
month
always
there's a
be
new batch of
watching
promo rewards.
for what's coming up if you have a concept of a trip in mind, to say the least, because there's a ton of points to be saved with these.
I do want to mention quickly,
Absolutely.
though, that it's more off, at least in the premium economy and business class promo rewards, they more often seem to be East Coast based cities. Like I'm out here in Vancouver, and I don't think I've ever seen a
I've
promo
never
reward
seen Calgary
from
or
Vancouver.
Edmonton, and we have direct flights to Amsterdam. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's better if you're based on the East Coast or willing to position to the East Coast for these promo rewards.
Well, Las Vegas was January's promo reward, right? So I mean, pretty much everywhere has access to Las Vegas.
never
so
know.
if you've got some FHR credits to burn and you want to go to Vegas before your promo reward flight and maybe spend all your money there, so you don't have any money to spend in Europe, could be a good deal.
Beautiful.
Now, that's not the only sweet spots. We've got many to talk about. And the saver rates are probably the most bland things to talk about. But basically, for your baseline saver rates, the best deal you're going to find if there's the availability of these saver seats is going to be 30,000 points one way between North America and Europe in economy class, 40,000 points in premium economy, and then 60,000 points in business class. The cool thing is, unlike Aeroplan, these are flat rates. So if you can find saver space from the West Coast, it's still 60,000 points. That might be a little bit more difficult here or there, but from Edmonton, I've seen the 60,000 point saver rate available more than 5 times when I was looking for friends and family.
It's pretty easy to book. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, they do fly the old configuration there where you're sitting in a 222 configuration. But if you're traveling with a +1, I actually kind of prefer those seats sometimes, honestly. They're more spacious. You're sitting next to the person that you want to be traveling with. So could be good. But that's not the only sweet spot. We've also got some things from partner airlines. And Josh, I know you're very excited about one particular SkyTeam airline that goes from the west coast of Canada to Asia at a very reasonable rate.
Yeah, so China Airlines is a bit of a sleeper sometimes, with people realizing that that's a redemption opportunity within SkyTeam. I know Jeff has flown it and he wrote a review. We'll throw that in the show notes. But you can go from the west coast of North America to Taipei, which is an excellent gateway to going wherever you want to go from there, whether it's Thailand or Singapore, even Japan. 61,500 flying blue miles. And the availability is pretty good. And it looks like a fantastic product. I know Jeff has spoken highly of it. So this is a route that I am going to add to my radar, and I'll be looking to book probably something like this for later 2026, early 2027.
Yes, and we are not a political show. However, if you are concerned about the name China Airlines, be known that China Airlines is actually a Taiwanese airline. So you're going to be flying to and through Taipei.
Yep.
So it's a little bit deceiving in the name. If you're concerned about that, you don't need to be if you are flying through Taipei. Now, Jeff, we also have a few things involving Virgin Atlantic and Etihad. Etihad seems to have their fingers everywhere.
Yeah, Etihad, they partner with anyone and everyone, it seems. Because although we do have Etihad redemptions available through Aeroplan, if you've tried to book those or look at them, you'll often see dynamically priced business class flights for 200, 300,000 Aeroplan miles. So not exactly an ideal redemption. However, Etihad redemptions from North America to Abu Dhabi are 75,000 flying blue miles, which is an excellent deal. So a good alternative that we now have available for Etihad redemptions that we unfortunately didn't really have when they went away with Aeroplan. So good option there. And then Virgin Atlantic. For those of you that have looked at a Virgin Atlantic redemption, the most noticeable thing is the £700, the British pounds in taxes and fees on Virgin Atlantic redemptions. So if you want to use Flying Blue for a Virgin Atlantic redemption, you're still going to pay in the neighborhood. I'm gonna say $350 to $400 in taxes and fees. So a little more palatable. You're going to pay more points through Flying Blue than you are through Virgin Atlantic, but It's a way to save a decent amount of money on taxes and fees for Virgin Atlantic redemption.
Well, and it's an option for people who don't have U.S. Bank balances, right? I mean, Virgin Atlantic, the only way to get their miles, if you live in Canada and can only have access to Canadian points and miles programs, is Marriott Bonvoy. And you wouldn't want to be sending Bonvoy points to Virgin Atlantic in most situations. Now, a few tips and tricks that we have with specifically Air France and KLM flights is if you don't find any saver availability, you can sometimes look at small airports or just other airports outside of Paris or Amsterdam, and that'll unlock saver space. It's a really strange thing, but married segments, which is something that we've done an article on in the past that we'll have in the show notes, are a thing. And sometimes that saver, the second rate, the smaller flight that's within Europe will trigger the long flight to price at saver rates. So if you're not finding anything that you want for the dates that you want, just try putting in some random airports on the Air France website and see if you can make something work. And Jeff, you actually have a really interesting tip about connecting on with trains rather than planes.
Right, yeah. Air France and KLM are two of the airlines in Europe that offer air and rail redemptions, which is, and they're actually the only airline that actually offers that as a redemption. So you can often add on a connecting train segment from Amsterdam or Paris to a connecting city in, say, wherever. If you want to go to Belgium, if you want to go to Brussels by train, you can often add on a train segment for no additional price in points. So a neat little trick there to use. You can also do that for, obviously, cash fares too, but a way to squeeze a bit more value out of your redemption.
Yeah, and if you're a transportation nerd, there is probably the availability to include a TGV or a TGV segment on there as well, which is the super high-speed train that gets you around France, which is super neat. And if you don't need a train, but you want saver space, maybe you don't show up to your train. I don't know. That could be something that just happens. Your cab is a little bit slow, right? You know, maybe your travel plans change. All of a sudden, you do want to eat the croissant in Paris, like Emily in Paris. These are things that happen. But moving back to the North American continent, Josh, you have a very relevant hack for Canadians who want to use Flying Blue to fly WestJet.
Yeah, I love this one. This is something we didn't really consider before with the not so great transfer ratio, but now that it's 1-to-1, it makes a lot more sense. Super simple to find WestJet flights on Flying Blue. You just log in and search. There's no extra tricks or tips that you need. Pricing and value is kind of dependent. So just prior to this episode, I ran a quick search on a classic Edmonton to Las Vegas direct. So just a 3-hour flight, prices out, cash fare at about $519 for a one-way. But via Flying Blue, it's only 12,000 miles and $116 in taxes and fees. It does book into the econo fare class as well, so no ultra basic here. So I think there's some value here. In that example, we're looking at 3.3 cents per mile, which is really, really good value. It does also depend on route and cash fares because it is a flat, so it's a flat price. So regardless of the day you're flying Edmonton to Las Vegas, it's going to be 12,000 miles. So if you're flying on a Friday where prices are inflated, makes a lot more sense. If you're flying down on a Tuesday where you might be able to get a cash fare for $250, really not as much value there. It is important to note that cancellation is costly. I believe it's somewhere around €70. So a bit more of a hassle with that price-wise. Danny previously wrote an article about booking WestJet with Delta miles, which is another great opportunity and probably was the best opportunity prior to this new change. Comparing Flying Blue to Delta when booking WestJet, Delta is way cheaper cancellation-wise because they don't charge a cancellation fee. So if you're not 100% kind of locked in your plans, it's maybe a better idea to use Delta. But, all things considered, Flying Blue probably offers way better value. So this is definitely a sweet spot depending on the route and the pricing and the cash pricing. and it's probably something I'll take advantage of. It's I know Danny always loves his like Porter Airlines via Alaska. This is very similar to me how I feel about this one, where it's just like kind of a niche opportunity, but pretty damn good, all things considered, which is nice to see. Western Canada, miles and points enthusiasts will know WestJet is a necessary evil. So,
yes. Yeah, West is in the name, and the Westerners need the jets. So a couple more tips and tricks that we have about redeeming Flying Blue miles is that a stopover program is allegedly a thing. There is very little details about this, and unfortunately, the article that was written about this is also vague because there is no information. It's just, it exists. You can do it. You have to call in. There's no way to do it online. So you can look at that article for a little bit more detailed information. That's probably the best source of info on that, just because none of us have done it. I think the Aeroplan stopover program is more attractive. If you want to be stopping over and doing stuff, you can add on a lot more fun things. And frankly, if you're trying to do a stopover, you know about award travel and you know how to make it extra fun. So one that is inconvenient like Flying Blue, if the perfect deal is there, maybe it's worth calling in and seeing if you can sort it out. The last tip we have is how to find the availability. If you don't have any award search tools, Jeff, can you please tell all of the folks listening how you can quickly skim through months and months of Flying Blue availability without having to pay for any award search tools?
Yeah, it's really easy. You simply enter your origin, destination, and then leave the departure date field blank, and then hit search. And that will present you a award calendar showing you all the days of availability and the lowest price on that day. However, I wouldn't recommend doing this. I don't find it particularly reliable. We all kind of agree that the website is slow, a little buggy at times. So even though you say, hey, this is an option for you to do, I still try to use the search tool. It's just so much easier and quicker. I will caution people on using search tools because Flying Blue is one of the programs I noticed most often produces phantom award availability on search tools. I have an alert set up on seats.aero for a China Airlines flight, and I am constantly getting alerts for 9 seats available on China Airlines when there are 0 seats available. So it's good and bad. I go the search tool, but the option's there. The calendar's there if you find some use with it.
Yeah. I think we all use search tools, and Seats Arrow is a popular one, but I was actually able to find China Airlines space using Award Tool that the Flying Blue website did not show. The Seats Arrow Explorer tool and individual search did not show, but Award Tool popped it up. And when I clicked through on Award Tool, it was there, it was real, and it got booked. So that's just to show that award tools and award search tools in general are not perfect, but maybe Award Tool has got the inside track for that specific redemption, but each tool is going to have something different. Now, moving on to Flying Blue status. For completeness, we are going to include a small segment on Flying Blue status. Status matches. This is definitely the easiest way to get status as a Canadian. They're often available. They're paid, so it's not going to be a free status match, but you are pretty generous with the soft landings. So I credited one flight to my Flying Blue Gold account so that I could get a free check bag on Delta, and I got a soft landing to Silver. So I paid one time, I think it was like 250 Canadian dollars for a 50K, Aeroplan 50K to Flying Blue Gold status match, and I've had status for 2 years, actually 2.5 years because of that. So I've been pretty happy with that. And then also there's some real benefits for international travel. If you want to know what my benefits were, we're not going to get too into them here, but I did use that status match when I went and saw Taylor Swift in Amsterdam because, of course, have to fly KLM if you're making your way to Amsterdam directly from the US. And then the other thing about having status is that it unlocks more saver level award space. And this is real. This is not anecdotal. It is a 100% legitimate thing that is well documented. If you are having trouble finding flights that work for you and there's a status match available you can take advantage of, it's not a guarantee, but there's, I don't know, Jeff, this is probably anecdotal, but 75% more availability for status members, you would say?
It's pretty significant. It's actually a surprising amount that is available if you have status compared to not having status. Yeah.
It's any level of status, just to be clear?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Any level of status. So if you're able to get even like Flying Blue Silver status from a hotel program, it is probably worth it if you have any interest at all in flying Air France KLM. All right. They being Flying Blue, also has a family sharing setup, very similar to Aeroplan in the way that we know them so well. Josh, you have the nuts and the bolts on the Flying Blue family sharing, as you actually have one of these set up for your household.
Absolutely. I think we all love household sharing accounts on this podcast and on the team. There's such an easy way to have multiple people accrue miles and then pool them all into one account for redemptions. Flying Blue is very similar to what we see with other household accounts. It's a little bit different though, in that you actually have to elect essentially who will be your Flying Blue household leader. So that is the person who creates the actual household setup. And it's really important that you're picky as to who you select for this household leader, because miles are not actually automatically pooled amongst everyone. How it works is members, which are the people that are invited to the household group from this leader, can transfer miles to the leader, and the leader can transfer miles to the members, but members cannot transfer miles to members. Now, of course, there's a workaround there where the members can go to the leader and the leader can move it to a member, but it is important that you have your, for me in my household, I would be the leader, I guess, is the gist of it, right? The person who more so deals with the miles and points. So it's important that you're picky in doing that. But other than that, it kind of just works like a household account. So there is the need to manually move those miles, but it does make it easy. For example, I have 35,000 Flying Blue on my personal account right now, and I'm going to be making a redemption on my significant other's account in the next few months using MR transferred from her account. I can just move that 35,000 over to make sure that a spare amount's just not sitting in my account. So easy to set up, no downside to using. Take advantage of it if you have multiple people with multiple cards, whether that's in Canada or the United States.
Yeah, I mean, really nice that they have this, and something familiar that Aeroplan members who are super users will be thankful that the Flying Blue program has. And another reason to really pay attention to Flying Blue. I think that if you don't pay attention to Flying Blue going forward, you 100% will be missing out as a Canadian points and miles enthusiast. Speaking of missing out, how about missing miles when they expire? Jeff, do Flying Blue miles expire?
Yes, they do expire. Flying Blue miles will expire after 2 years of inactivity. It's really, really easy to keep your miles active. It requires almost no effort. You can transfer in a small amount of points from American Express, and that should keep your account active. You can make a purchase with the Brim, Flying Blue, Mastercard, and also elite members, status members, sold gold and platinum. Their miles will never expire. So yes, they expire. It's 2 years. You have a lot of time to keep them active, so it shouldn't be an issue.
Very good. Our final portion about deep diving into Flying Blue is the brand new Flying Blue Extra program. Now, this was so brand new that the three of us didn't even know it existed until we started doing our deep dive into what the Flying Blue program is all about. So basically, with Flying Blue Extra, the most meaningful benefit you're going to see as somebody who doesn't live in France and flies on Air France is going to be exclusive promo rewards. Now, if you're familiar with the promo rewards we talked about earlier, basically these are extra cities that are available at the 25% discounted rate. And in January, when this news came out that we could transfer our American Express points as an increased ratio, Montreal was actually one of the cities you could fly between. I can't remember if it was Amsterdam or Paris, but it doesn't really matter. Montreal was 45,000 points only if you were an exclusive Flying Blue Extra subscriber. Now, it sounds like you can spend a lot of money with Flying Blue between buying their miles and then now being a Flying Blue Extra member. It's not cheap. $379 per year at the essential level, or at the extended level, 699 euros per year. The extended level gets you a 10% discount on reward tickets, which sounds great, but that's only on your first 2 redemptions. There's a few more terms and conditions on that. And then you also get an extra 20% towards your status. So I don't think anybody is going to find it worth it to pay basically double the price to go to the extended level. And then you get some extra miles per euro you spend, but that's only on cash flights. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's worth it paying for Flying Blue Extra versus paying for a status match where you get some benefits. What do you guys think?
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money and a lot of the benefits tough for Canadians to really get value from. I think that's where I struggle. And yeah, the fact it's in euros is just
1.5 pretty much.
Yeah, that's the nail in the coffin for me. So I think it's cool that they're doing something like this. I always love seeing stuff like this, even if it's not something I'm going to personally do. I think it's innovative. Probably not a good fit for me and my household.
Jeff, anything to add?
I think I don't know if you mentioned this, but the lounge vouchers are only good in Paris and Amsterdam too. So
yeah,
even though we have lots of Air France and KLM lounges in North America, they unfortunately aren't going to be useful there. So yeah, not ideal. And if you have any level of status with Air France, KLM Flying Blue, this is definitely not worth it because a lot of these benefits already carry over to those statuses anyway.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing that might be interesting is if you have to travel on a specific day and you really want that exclusive promo reward city to travel from, you can look at this 379 euros as essentially an extra taxes and fees, right? So it's like if somebody said, hey, you can have the perfect redemption for everything that you want, it just costs an extra 400. Well, no, not an extra 400 Canadian dollars, an extra 525 Canadian dollars roughly with the 1.5% conversion ratio for whatever a euro to a CAD is worth. That's the only thing I can see with Flying Blue Extra really making sense. Or if it would save you miles, right? Like if you're going to make that flight anyway, and you're going to have 4 people flying, but the city that you're flying from is a exclusive promo reward city, and you can save 45,000 miles by buying this, I would buy 45,000 Flying Blue miles for 500 Canadian dollars. What about you guys? Would you, if that was the deal, if that was presented to you, would you do it?
Yeah, if it makes sense.
Yeah, when you put it that way, yes.
Yeah, that's why I'll be honest. While we're recording this, I was looking at the status matches because I'm looking to make some redemptions, like straight up. Yeah. So, if the price is right and the value is great enough, I'll spend money on anything when it comes to stuff like this. So
yeah, for sure. I think I would definitely buy 45,000 Flying Blue miles or more, right? Like, so the other thing I don't think we mentioned, which we probably should have, is that Flying Blue will make like up to 9 seats available at saver rates.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to fly as a family, Flying Blue is your best friend, 100%. Aeroplan with their partner award space, like you might find last minute Lufthansa group, like Swiss or Lufthansa themselves, at like 4 seats or 5 seats. But Flying Blue will just randomly make like 8 seats available in business class.
Out of Edmonton, it's like half of the business class cabin on the older planes. It's nuts. Yeah. Or over half, I guess. I think there's 16 seats typically. So you have 9 seats. I've seen it all the time. It's wild. I agree. That's honestly a great takeaway, is if you're flying as a family, this is a great program. I like that.
Yes, it's a great program. And then if the city that you're flying from is an exclusive promo reward city, buy the essential thing yesterday, because you will basically buy Flying Blue miles at the cheapest available rate. Or Amex Canada points. Like, hold on, let's even take one step back. If you're transferring points from Amex Canada, you have to transfer 15,000 less points per person to book this flight. And if you're flying with a big family, that's 100,000 Amex Canada points you're buying for $500. Every single one of us on this show would do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Well, that wraps it up with our deep dive into the Flying Blue loyalty program. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Miles Ahead. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any questions about anything we discussed, please leave a comment wherever you're listening or on the episode page at FrugalFlyer.ca. If you have a question you want us to answer on air, you could submit it on FrugalFlyer.ca/podcast. Bye, everybody.